All right, good evening, everybody. We're about 2 minutes from start from our webinar this evening, and Dr. Steve Anderson here with Pam Peterson and Dr. Jeff Gray, who is our host. Good evening, Jeff.
Happy to do it. It's going to be a great program, and we'll give everybody another minute or two to sign on, and then we'll kick off some great solutions for helping retain and keep your team happy, and how to find new ones.
Couple of quick pointers. You're in listen only mode, so you should be able to see us, and so there's no background noise. We can't hear you, but there is a question box. So if along the way in the presentation this evening, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the question box, and we will address those as we go along. We may have a poll or two here, so if you can make sure that you're managing your control panel, there will be a few things that we'll mention in this area tonight that we'll be using. So we're in for a great experience. So,
all right. Well, it's 5 o'clock, and I just wanted to welcome everybody to the last Harbor seminar for 2021. And as probably everyone remembers, the Harbor is essentially a place where we can go to learn everything else but clinical dentistry. So when I sent out a poll to the forum, one of the critical things was people were really having a hard time after COVID retaining their teams, hiring new teams for people that had left. And it's not going to shock you, but that is not a problem exclusively to dentistry. And I feel extremely fortunate to have two incredible friends of mine. Steve and I have known each other, oh my gosh, it's probably like 27 years now. And he is one of my most trusted friends, my most trusted resources, and has been a great and wonderful part of my life. He always steps up to help others. And Pam is his right-hand person or woman. She is super strong. She is a big giver of information. She runs the TOPS program, which I'm sure they'll talk about. But I wanted to share one story. I know Dave Rice is probably listening on here. A few weeks ago, David called me in desperation. And he goes, Jeff, he goes, I think I'm ready to quit dentistry. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? He said, I've had ads out for 6 months. I don't have a team. Like, one of my main ladies is leaving. I am just desperate. And he actually said, I think God wants me to quit dentistry. He's sending me a message. So on a weekend, I reached out to Steve, who was doing a program already. He talked to Dave. And within a few weeks, using the tips that Pam and Steve will share on this webinar, he was able to hire 2 new team members, and he's back in the game. So David, congratulations. Thanks for sending out the letter to everyone. And I hope you guys all find this as useful and helpful as Dave did. So Steve and Pam, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and take it away.
You got it. Thanks, Jeff, and good to be with everybody tonight. Congratulations, Dr. Rice. Glad you had some success there. Let me just preface, we're going to go pretty rapid fire tonight, and let me just preface what Pam and I will talk about. First off, we do not want to present ourselves as having the solutions to one of the biggest employment problems that this country has faced since the Great Depression. It's the opposite problem. And because we have the opportunity every day to work across hundreds of offices all over the country through the work we do at the Total Patient Service Institute. So we've got an entire team of what we call practice advisors that are out working with dental practices coast to coast. And so on any given day, we've got our hands on different parts of the country, different practices. If it gives you any comfort, we were discussing this in our weekly meeting last week. There are very few practices that we know of that are fully staffed right now. Not that misery loves company, but just know this is a challenge that everybody's facing, and figuring a path forward. So many of these things, we're going to share actual case studies with you of different dentists around the country, some of whom you'll recognize, with some of the success that they have had and tactics that they used. Not all of this will apply to your specific situation, but we hope that there will be some pearls here that will help in whatever your situation might be. So Pam Peterson is the president of the Total Patient Service Institute that specializes in implementing the highest level of patient service and case acceptance skills in dentistry. Pam has been in the dental industry her entire career, worked in just about every position that you can have without a license. She is a master manager and one of the best leaders that I have ever worked with, and that's why she leads our company. She leads the Total Patient Service Institute, and she's going to share this evening, along with myself, some things that we hope, again, will be helpful for you. So first off, we're going to share 5 myths about today's job market that we continue to hear, and we thought we'd just take these off the table for the beginning to better frame the situation. So here's the top 5 myths. Number 1, nobody wants to work. We hear this a lot. It appears that way because there seems to be a labor shortage. There are plenty of people that want to work, and there's a lot of different takes on what has caused what's going on. But there are plenty of people in the labor market that want to work, that want to be gainfully employed, and they're out there. And we'll share some examples of that. So we're taking that one off the table. That's an absolute that is absolutely not true. There are plenty of people out there that are in the workforce in different parts of the country based on unemployment rates. There's more in some areas than others, but there are folks in the job market. Number 2 myth, unemployment's a better option than working. We heard a lot about this when the government stimulus was in place. That's run its course. The savings rate in America is the highest it's ever been, thanks to a lot of the government stimulus money that happened during COVID. Today, it would, in most states, most of that has now run its course. There are some pockets where that now may be true, but at least from everything we've been able to gather, unemployment benefits are not the thing necessarily that is keeping people out of the workforce. You must have dental experience, which is not necessarily a requirement. Obviously, if you're a hygienist, you have to have a license to practice hygiene. And there are a lot of other people that are making career changes where dentistry is an appealing industry to work in. So experience is not necessarily a requirement. We'll share that with you here in just a minute. Number 4 myth is that people are lazy. I'm sure there are some that are lazy, but that is not the underlying issue. And then number 5 that we hear a lot is we don't have time to train. In other words, we need somebody that's already been trained because we don't have time in our practice to train. We'll give you a solution to that this evening. So just one little piece of context. What's really going on? I think there's 2 factors. We've gone through obviously an unprecedented situation that none of us in our lives have experienced until we went through the pandemic. And with an economy that got shut down temporarily, I think we believe that it caused a lot of people to reevaluate their priorities, reevaluate what's important. We do know that there are quite a number, we don't have a specific number on this, but there's a lot of 2-income households that when things got shut down, that they figured out how to live on less and have decided that one of those income earners is not going to go back into the workforce. We think there's plenty of that going on, and there's tremendous demand because of how the economy is fired up right now. So that, if it gives you context, everything is a phase. Our economy is going through a phase right now. and it will, things are going to change obviously down the road, but we are going to deal with what's going on in the moment right now with some solutions. Pam is going to share some recruiting tips. We are going to discuss in just a moment your existing team and some things that we believe you should seriously consider about your existing team. But we'll first talk about the recruiting strategy and some things that you might want to consider. So, Pam?
Got it. Thanks, Steve. All right, so first, exactly what's on the screen where recruiting feels like pulling teeth. And I'm not talking about a simple extraction. For recruiting, I've been in this for a very long time, and it's never been easy for me. Even before the pandemic, it's been a difficult journey in order to find the right talent. And we were trained to do hard things, and you being COIS doctors, you're trained to do hard things. So that's what we're going to talk about, is not looking for the easy route. And so when we think about recruiting, it's like pulling teeth. There's simple extractions, and there are extractions that are bony impacted, where you have to get out everything and the kitchen sink. That's what we want to do today with recruitment. We don't want to just get out just an elevator and a forceps for a simple extraction. We want to really load your toolbox up so that you can pull from whatever you need based on your situation, your demographics, and the needs for your practice. So next slide, Steve. Let's first talk about what's working in recruiting. Next slide. So here are a number of resources, and this is not limited to. So if there's a resource that you're currently using that's not listed and it's working for you, please keep using it. And so the ones that we identified are some heavy players that are really working closely with a lot of the clients that we have supported. And so I'll first start with Indeed. I'll start with Indeed and Glassdoor. Indeed purchased Glassdoor about 2 years ago, which was a win for Glassdoor. Indeed has really upped their game within the last 2.5 years as far as adding to their platform. They are pretty robust. They have some really good benefits, and I call them wow factors. And wow factors does not mean that I'm endorsing them, that they are the end all. The wow factor means it really helps you when you are looking for talent. Anytime there's a platform that can offer assistance to help you screen out team members so that you get the best of the best in front of you, for me, that's a wow factor. And so Indeed's wow factors is they have virtual assistants, which they'll take a look, it'll take a look at your employment ad, it'll make recommendations. Also, there's a virtual recruiting assistant that is an actual app that you can actually download as well when working with Indeed. They have a ton of assessments that when you place an ad, you can identify what you're seeking and then attach the assessment to your ad. Why is that significant? Well, if a team member answers your ad and they give you a resume, you have the resume, if they complete the assessment, it'll actually tell you if that team member has exactly what you're seeking regarding joining your practice. Last but not least, the other wow factor that Indeed has, they have a recruiting marketing specialist, and that is a person. And so for a nominal fee, there's a person that will work with you virtually to help you find talent. So one size does not fit all, but those are a couple of their wow factors. One last thing Indeed that I appreciate is there is a recording that you can attach to your ad as well. And it's just 3 questions. One is about behavior. It'll ask the question of, tell me a time when you've worked with a team member that you didn't really get along with and how did you handle it? So you get to listen to that potential candidate recording how they answer. So that's a wow factor for me because I feel like it'll cut down the screening process for you. Next is Dental Post. Dental Post is just in the dental industry, and some of the wow factors that they've added, which is DISC. They'll do a behavioral style, so you'll be able to identify if the person is a DISC because of the assessment that Dental Post had the team members, the potential candidate, complete before you even click on their name. Dental Post, the founder and CEO, is a former hygienist, so she knows the dental industry. Next is Workable. Workable is an online recruiting software, and this is a one-stop stop. They've done a really good job of partnering with heavy hitters. So on Workable, when you place an ad on Workable, it will go to Indeed, Dental Post, Facebook, LinkedIn, and there's other resources, but it doesn't just go to one place. So you have an opportunity to reach the masses. Now that may work for you, Indeed may work for you, Dental Post may work for you. You won't know until you actually try and see which one fits your needs. Now with Indeed, going back just for 1 second, you can place the ad complimentary, and they also will recommend that you sponsor the ad. If you place it complimentary, you won't get many hits. When you sponsor it, you'll get more hits. And sponsoring, you can do whatever you like, from $50 to $100 to even $200, based on what you're seeking. The virtual assistant will give you recommendations. With Workable, they always extend a 15-day complimentary grace period, and then after that, it's $99 a month. Now, with any of these platforms, if you add two, of course, it's going to be more, but that's the starting rate. And what I love most about them is there's no contract, so you can stop at any time. The other is Facebook, LinkedIn. Facebook and LinkedIn, being in the dental industry, dental people friend dental people. And so you have to be careful with those two, because you may wind up hiring your friends or saying no to your friends. So really be mindful when you are seeking for team members on LinkedIn and Facebook, especially if those are the people that you're following. KSL is located in Salt Lake City. And Steve, if you were to describe KSL in one sentence, how would you describe KSL?
Yeah, so the reason we put this on here is because in some markets there's a local resource that's more powerful than any of the national ones. So this is an example of that. KSL is actually a TV station in Salt Lake City. They have an online message board, classified, all things, and it's one of the most powerful engines in that area in the country. And so that was just an example of in some parts of the country, there's a local presence of a particular resource that overshadows everything else. So depending on where you are in the country, don't overlook the local resources as well.
Yeah, and that was good to know, because all the others didn't work well for some of the practices that we're working with in Utah. Next slide, please. All right, let's talk about some success sharing. Steve mentioned that earlier, that we have some case studies, and these are some practices that we've worked really closely with, and some of what the resources that I've shared doesn't work for all. So I'm going to give you an example. And the first one, this is one of your own. This is Dr. Ron Massey, who is COIS trained. He lives and breathes COIS. He's located in beautiful Lake of the Ozarks, which is a destination for vacation. So they have the population of 92,551. And this small, beautiful community have 5.4 million visitors per year. Now with Dr. Massey being in this beautiful Lake of the Ozark, it doesn't have a huge pool of dental hygienists, front office team members, or clinical assistants. So we had to really think outside of the box. So what works best for Ron is he uses Indeed, he sponsors his ads, he makes sure that he uses the complimentary assessments. But the one step that he did further is he hired the marketing specialist. And this young lady she resides in Austin, Texas. So she and Dr. Massey communicate via phone, virtually. She asked him a series of questions about him, about his practice, so that she could find the best fit for his practice. She was successful in finding an amazing hygienist who relocated to Lake of the Ozark. And she also was instrumental in hiring she started out as a hygiene assistant, and now she's being trained for restorative. That is a big win because it's, like I said, it's not, they don't have a pool of clinical assistants. So to have someone and train them from the ground up with a great attitude has really been good for Dr. Massey and his team. And when Steve talked earlier, this is not just about recruiting new talent. It's about what you're going to do. What are you doing with your existing? And once you get them, what do you do to retain? Sometimes we really focus on the journey of getting somewhere. And when we get there, it's like, now what? This is when all of the work really comes, is what do you have in place to retain? And so when asking Dr. Massey, some of the key things that he shared was that he consistently has a mom, which is the morning opportunity meeting. They follow the agenda to make sure that it's about people first, teeth second. The next thing that he and his team does is they read their mission out loud, standing every single morning consistently. The next thing that he put in place, which is an end of the day mom, and why that was important to him is sometimes the day goes really fast and there's some things that they want to correct. And it's imperative that he starts his day positive and not talk about things that didn't go well. So they download at the end of the day so that they can start the next day fresh. And that end of the day meeting is really short and sweet. I think it's less than 10 minutes, and it's led by his team. The last thing that I want to share with you is leadership is showing up for yourself, for your practice, and your team. And this is a quote from Dr. Massey. He mentioned, he said, recruiting and looking for team members, I am so over it. It drives me crazy, and I'm not going to quit. He said, I'm going to put as much work into recruiting as I did when I got my dental degree. And I thought that would be really important to share, because there are some things that we really don't enjoy doing and we want different results, so we push through. Next slide, Steve. All right, so the next success sharing is Alaska Premier Dental Group. Alaska Premier Dental Group has 3 partners, and they are Crown Council members and have been for a very, very long time, 15 plus years. They have 3 locations, 2 in Anchorage, Alaska, and 1 in Wasilla. So Wasilla has a population of 11,562. They are located right near Fort Richardson Army Base. So they have team members coming in and out. And so there is some turnover. So with what worked with Alaska Premier, they first tried Indeed. That didn't work. Then they tried Dental Post. That didn't work. Then they tried a local newspaper. That didn't work. Then they tried Workable, and ding, 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 that worked for them. Why? I don't know, because it actually reaches out to some of the same individual places where you can place ads. But with Workable, when they use that, it really worked. They place their ad, they utilize all of the assessments, and they also make sure that they pay attention to it daily. So in the event talent is on the line, they act quickly. One of many things that they said in order to retain their current team members and the new ones that join their team, you'll notice that this is a trend. Culture is everything. So they have a cultural agreement card, which they call their agreements, and there are all of the behavior things that they agreed that they would treat each other with respect and that they would show up for each other. The next, they have team training, technical and communication. They don't just train on how to, they also train on how to communicate with each other and their patients. And they said team building activities is huge. If you work together, you got to make sure you know how to play together. So that's the success sharing with Alaska. And so we have one more. Just for grins. And I'm going to pause for just a second. Also in Wasilla, it's just like Lake of the Ozark. There aren't a huge pool of business team members that are trained. So it's not uncommon for them to hire former makeup artists that used to work at Nordstrom. They have 2. These ladies show up, they look amazing and they do a really great job as business team members. So that was the out of the box thinking for them. So Just for Grins is close to home. They're located in Keller, Texas. This is Dr. Jonathan and Kristen Angwin. It's a small community as well. It has a population of 46,213. What works for them is Indeed, and they utilize the screening parameters and the performance assessments that are offered with Indeed. For a long period of time, Just for Grins used Dental Post, and it ran its course for them because they weren't getting what they needed. So they shifted and started using Indeed, and now it's getting a lot better for them, and they were able to get a couple of really good team members to join their team. They also have a team referral reward by asking your team members what we know about eagles. Eagles flock with eagles. And if a team member refers another team member to your practice, they are going to make sure that that person does really well in your practice because it reflects on them. So that's also something to really tap into. If you have some A team members, ask your team if they have like-minded individuals to join your team if you're looking as well. Some of the key things that they put in place to retain their eagles is, of course, culture, making sure that you don't just talk about it one day, you treat it like hygiene. It's important to do it every single day. They also have a sense of work family, inner office acknowledgement, and they make sure that it's a fun place to work. They have this work hard and the play hard mentality, and they're all in alignment. So those are some key things for Just for Grins on what they do to recruit and what they do to retain. Next slide, Steve. All right, Steve, tell us about unconventional talent search.
All right, so I'm going to tell you a story about this one because this underlies the whole point. Is sometimes in times like we're living now, you've got to pull out all the stops and do things that you may not have otherwise thought of. So we have an entire philosophy that we call the ESP, which is everybody search. That has to do with patients, and in this case, as well as future team members. So everybody is a potential candidate. Everybody. I'm going to give you some specific tactics that I'm going to challenge you to use as you're out and about in the community. I was at dinner just this last weekend at a restaurant here in Dallas, Texas. I live in Dallas, and we had an amazing server. This woman was on it. Her attitude was amazing. Everything she did, she was just on it 100% of the time. And I told her so. I told her how impressed I was with her service and her attitude, got a little bit of her story. And here were the words that I used. I said, I'm looking for somebody just like you. And that's the key words. I'm looking for somebody just like you. And I said, we have a number of clients in the Dallas area. And I said, we have an amazing dental practice, and we need somebody with your attitude, your intelligence, your enthusiasm to work in our front office, to greet patients, to help with treatment planning, and explain the whole deal. And she looked at me and she said, oh, she said, if I could find a position where I could work regular business hours, she said, I'm a single mom with a 5-year-old, and every night when I have to come into work, it pains me that I'm not able to be home with my kids. So she goes, I'm all over it. And so she gave me all of her information, the whole deal. She's in the middle of the interview process now. But the point is, everybody's a prospect. And everywhere you go, and every interaction that you have with people in the community, the bank, at the store, at the restaurants, everywhere you go, if you find somebody or see somebody that has a great attitude, that has the work ethic, just really impresses you, those are our favorite words, is I'm looking for somebody just like you. And if they're interested, they'll say, well, what exactly is it that you're looking for, and what's the position? So that's a starting point. So just have your radar on all the time, everybody that you interact with. Same thing with your team members. Is the best team members more often than not come from your best team members. You know that. And so everybody needs to be in on the effort. The culture in your practice, which we'll talk about in a minute, it's made up of the people in it. And all of us should have a huge, intense interest in adding people to the team that will make that environment great. So be unconventional, do all the conventional things as well, but there's a big opportunity to do the unconventional as well.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
Pam, you have some great advice on what to never put in an ad when you're posting for a position. Tell us about it.
Yes, yes, indeed. You want to make sure that you take your time during this. So let's talk about what's not to do. All right, Steve, next slide. So this is glaring. This is the wrong way, where it says seeking a front desk staff member, which I know it's spelled differently, but staff is an infection, who shows up on time, stays off social media at work, dresses professionally, apply if the following applies to you. Works well with others, positive, non-smoker, self-managing, calling unscheduled treatment and recare, can handle patients' account problems, 2 years plus experience in general dentistry, verification of PPO insurance, 2+ years of dentrix, treatment planning, and presentation. It sounds like this practice had a bad experience. And
in other words, don't list all the things that you don't want.
No. When a potential team member reads this, it sends the message that you have a culture problem and you want somebody to come in and fix it. And so this doesn't say, yes, I want to work there. You want to tell people what you want versus what you don't want. Because this sends a message that you don't want an ego, that you want the person that just left that caused you to write this ad. So this is what you don't want to do. The next one, we're going to share what you can do. Now, at the end, we do have some samples, but I decided to share this one with you because it's fun. And I want you to have fun with this based on your behavioral style. We adopted this, we copied Genius. This is from Dr. Justinson, and his practice is located in Bozeman, Montana, a population of 46,000 people. And so when he was looking for a hygienist, he got really creative and had fun with it to get someone to smile and answer his ad. And so it sounds like this: seeking a dental hygienist to join our practice. And he was like, nope, this sounds just like him, by the way. That was not a typo. We happen to think you're pretty amazing, and we should probably change your title. Are you looking for a practice that recognizes your value? Want to work in an environment with autonomy, where autonomy is encouraged? If you answered yes, then you probably should have fired up your laptop and sent us your resume yesterday. We have a great team to get us started, but we're missing we're missing one thing, and that's you. Next slide, Steve. Oh yeah, requirements. Must be a nice human, licensed hygienist, of course, not afraid to bust a move or sing if necessary. Quick wit is a plus, but not required. You will be compensated CE reimbursement, never stop learning, paid holidays, and dental, obviously. Next slide. Well, you made it to the end of our ad, so you probably are someone we should get to know. Please send us your resume and 3 references. Also, could you be a dear and answer these 3 questions in email? That would be great. Have you read any good books lately? Who's your personal hero? If you could change the world, what would you change? Don't worry, we grade on a sliding scale. Can't wait to miss you. Can't wait to meet you. Now this is fun, and he got a ton of hygienists that reached out to him, and he got really creative and had fun with it. Hygienists want to have fun. Do they want to be compensated? Yes. They also want to be in an environment where they feel appreciated and have fun. And so he hit the nail on the head. So I wanted to share this with you so that you can really get creative and have fun, because when you're placing an ad, it really is a marketing piece that you are wanting for buyers, which is whoever clicks on it, to click on your ad. And so he did a really good job with this, and we've added this at the very end as a gift to you as well. Next slide, Steve. So when you're placing the ad, there are a couple of things that best team members are looking for. One last thing, when I talked about placing the ad, getting creative, having fun with it, if you have someone supporting you in your practice with screening, which is a plus because it can be overwhelming, and especially with you being the clinician, it's a lot of hats to juggle. So having someone that support you is a good thing. The one thing that I'm going to ask of you is, when you decide to do the final interview, the offer needs to come from you, doctor, and also the compensation offer needs to come from you, because people want to work for you, not your administrative assistant or the office manager or the practice administrator. You want to make sure that they know who the founder and the CEO is of your practice, and that needs to be you. So if you could make sure that those two things are in place, that's bonus ask. All right.
I think we have a poll, Pam. Are you ready for the poll?
I'm ready.
All right, so I'm going to launch this. Everybody gets to vote. What's the number one thing team members are looking for today? So you get to vote. Make sure you're paying attention here. Everybody gets to vote. We'll see what the percentages are.
Yeah,
I'm coming, looking good. All right, they're still coming in. We have a few more. I can tell whether you're paying attention, by the way. All right, we're almost there. And I think we're good. All right, okay. And I'm going to, let's see, share results. Here we go. All right, 34% of you said compensation, 68% culture, benefits 20%, and great hours 20%. All right, Pam, tell us
ding, ding, ding.
What our team members looking for.
It's practice culture first. Yes. All right, so next slide, Steve, so we can talk about that.
You got
all the compensation and all those other things are important, but the number one thing that team members are still looking for is culture. They'll ask key questions, and so that's why it's really important that you talk about what it will feel like for your practice, what your team's like, so that people want to join. So culture is still number one. That has not changed, and the pandemic was not strong enough to change that either. And it's really important that you identify what are the key areas in your practice where you will acknowledge culture, so that it doesn't reside on a wall or on a card in someone's purse. You want to make sure that you are in a position daily where you are reviewing your culture, even if it's a couple of lines of your culture from the culture guide, but you want to make sure that you keep your team replenished when talking about your culture. A good thing to do with your current team, if you just randomly ask them what's the most important thing to them about where they work, and I guarantee you they're going to share a couple of positive words about what it should feel like. And so I would recommend that you do that, so that when they say it, they'll continue to be it. Next slide, Steve. Number 2 is the leadership part that goes with the culture, with your culture. Now, this is with your existing team members and the potential new team members that you're going to invite on when looking for talent. It's really important to set up quarterly feedback sessions. Now, this doesn't have to be long, drawn out. It's a simple document, and I know all of you are familiar with the business term SWOT. strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You can just have a blank document with SWOT, give it to the team member and said, based on your role in the practice and how you feel like you're doing, fill this out for me. And you fill one out as well. And then schedule a good 15, 20 minutes. Make sure that they give you their document ahead of time so you can compare notes. And then schedule 15, 20 minutes and just have a conversation. Your team member will identify the area that they want to grow in your practice. And that is the big R word. That's retention. When team members know that they are growing and they're in a great culture, they stay. So you want to make sure that you add this in to what you're already doing. This is not your annual feedback session. This doesn't have anything to do with compensation. It does have something to do with compensation, but not monetary. It's compensated in a way that you can't ever take it away. You help them grow. And so you want to make sure that you put this in place as well to support the culture. Next slide. So on the poll, we talked about culture being first. Next is show me the money. And you hear this a lot and you think, oh man, here we go again. This is part of it. As an entrepreneur, you have provided jobs for many people and compensation is a part of it. There's a couple of key things that are really important to think about before making an offer. And so this is based on individuals. So every practice is different. So next slide, Steve. The first thing you want to make sure is this is an example of a profit and loss statement. And you don't have to know everything on a profit and loss statement detail by detail, but there's a couple of things that I want you to pay attention to. There's two words, variables and fixed. Fixed mean it's fixed. I've got to pay this every month, which is the rent. If there's a bank note, those are fixed. It's the same amount every month. Variables are things that you can manage and measure. Variable is your team salary. And so you want to make sure that you know what you can afford to offer the position. I know that it's important to know what's going on as far as what people are asking for. You can't give them what you don't have. Now, this number is driven by the top number. And so we always recommend that you put a goal together, increase the top number so that the bottom number will allow you to attract great team members. So the first thing, know your numbers. Know what you can afford by paying a hygienist, dental assistant, business team member before sitting down in front of them to interview them. And I'll give you an example that'll help you remember. If I have a credit card and it has $300 on it, and I see something for $1,000, I can't use that credit card for $300 because it will get declined. So make sure that you keep in mind of what you can afford when it comes to team members, and no today does not mean no tomorrow. All right.
When you do find a credit card that does that, Pam, let me know.
I will.
All right.
All right. So know the pay range in your demographics. And this is, Steve and I talked about this. This is constantly moving, and there's a lot of platforms that'll actually give you a range, and it's still a guesstimate. And so what we recommend is know your demographics. When people are coming in and they're applying and they are asking, make note of what people are asking for so that it gives you a range as to what hygienists are asking for, dental assistants, and business team members. We used to refer to temp agencies, and now they're playing a game, so we really can't refer to them today. But know your demographics as what your range is, and not compare it to another city or another state. It's just based on in your zip code. Okay, next slide, Steve.
Excellent. Thank you, Pam. All right, let's talk about action steps. We have a saying in our organization that the only purpose of education is not knowledge, but results producing action. So here are some recommended next steps as a result of your time investment this evening. Number one is to create a talent search plan together with your team and with those that are part of your whole practice. So Pam, you've always said recruiting is not just when you need it, you're always doing it.
Absolutely. Ongoing.
Ongoing program that you have going on all the time.
Yeah.
So put that plan together. We hope that some of the things that we shared tonight will help you put that plan together. Number 2 is measure activity. So it's one thing to have the plan, but what are you doing on a daily basis to move things forward? Dr. Massey has a great example, as Pam mentioned. It is one of his least favorite things, and he does the work every day. One thing that I'll just mention, most everybody's familiar with the old adage, hire slow, fire fast. There's some indications that may not be exactly true today. You've got to move fast, because if you don't, then those people will move on to other opportunities. So it is a daily activity. You got to move fast. You've got to get back to people. You've got to be responsive and move through the process quickly, because there are a lot of options today. And then number 3, if you're not getting the result you want, do something different. Try different things. Figure it out. There is not a one-size-fits-all for every market. We've shared some of those examples with you tonight. Different things work in different markets. Some platforms are better than others. Different ads will get different responses. You may get some help, like we've mentioned tonight, with somebody who actually does this as a full-time endeavor. So those are just 3 suggested action items. As a resource, if you look in your control panel in the handouts section, there are 3 PDFs that you're welcome to download this evening that have some examples. They're not the end all, but they're just some examples of ads that you might consider. And again, you want to do your own thing. The one we shared from Dr. Justison this evening is fun and is creative. But those are just some examples that might get you started. If you're like me, it's a lot easier to edit than it is to create. So
absolutely.
We hope that those will be a resource for you. So you're welcome to click on those and download them as a part of your experience here. If you have questions, or for whatever reason you're not able to download these, we can be reached. Pam and I can be reached at answers@totalpatientservice.com. And you can just put your request in there. There will be a follow-up email that will follow this webinar for anyone who registered, as well with resource information. So thank you for joining us this evening. That was rapid fire, and thank you, Pam, for moving through all that and putting it together in a way that was, we hope, is usable and digestible. This is the challenge of the moment, and guaranteed there will be another one on the horizon that we all get to deal with. So good luck, and we're here to help in any way we can to help you in the recruiting process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was fantastic, you guys. I really appreciate your time. I was chuckling with some great ideas in there. How creative can you get to get the type of people you want? Because you want to have fun in your office. That's what John wants for us, for all of us, is to not only be superb dentists, but also to enjoy what we do, enjoy the people you do it with, and make a difference for your patients. So thanks, everybody. Again, thank you, Steve and Pam. And good luck to everybody. Hope you have a wonderful holiday season, whatever you're celebrating.
Good deal. Thank you, Jeff. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye-bye.